Hi, welcome back to Venture Recaps. Today I will talk about the movie named Ghost Rider. Spoilers ahead. The first scene opens with the voice of the caretaker relating the legend of the Ghost Rider, a damned soul condemned to walk the earth and obey the devil's orders. The Ghost Rider had been sent to collect a parchment known as the Contract of San Venganza, which holds the power of 1,000 evil souls. The Ghost Rider knew that this contract was pure evil, so he betrayed his heritage and outran the devil himself. The action changes to a carnival, where the father-son stunt duo of Barton Blaze and his son Johnny are performing on-ramps for the crowd. After the show, Barton chastises Johnny for showing off and being extra reckless in an attempt to impress his girlfriend, Roxanne. Later that day, Roxanne and Johnny meet under a tree, and Roxanne tells Johnny that her father is sending her away. Johnny decides to pack up, and they will run away together. They share a kiss before departing. Johnny goes back to his house to find his father asleep. He finds a piece of paper. It is a report from a doctor, and the news is not good. He's been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Crushed, Johnny goes out to work on his motorcycle when he is approached by Mephistopheles, who asks if Johnny will perhaps one day arrive for him. Mephistopheles mentions Barton's illness and offers to help. Johnny asks what he could give in return, and Mephistopheles says, "Your soul." Johnny, thinking the man is crazy or sarcastic, responds, "Oak." The man offers Johnny a contract, and Johnny cuts himself when opening it. Mephistopheles accepts this blood drop as an appropriate signature. Johnny wakes up in bed with Barton energetic and cheerful. Barton confesses to Johnny that he had been sick, but now feels healthy as a horse. Johnny is dumbfounded. Barton attempts a new stunt at the show the next day, which is jumping through a ring of fire, but he comes up short and crashes. Johnny tearfully watches his father die while Mephistopheles laughs ominously. Mephistopheles approaches Johnny, promising that one day he will come for his services when needed. Johnny sees Roxanne at the hilltop tree, but does not join her and rides off into the distance. We fast forward to 10 years later. Johnny is the most famous daredevil in the world. He is attempting a new stunt at a sold-out stadium, jumping over a row of parked semi-rigs. Johnny clears the targets on the field, but comes up short on the landing, wrecking his bike and sending him crashing into a wall. Johnny's pit crew, led by his best friend Mac, rush to his side and find Johnny dazed but uninjured. The crowd roars with cheers as Johnny gets back up. Later, as Johnny and his crew are on the road, Mac is perplexed, believing that there is no way Johnny should have survived that crash. Mac suggests that maybe Johnny has a guardian angel, and Johnny mildly suggests that maybe it's something else as he looks out the window and momentarily sees his face turn into a skeleton with a flash of lightning. Meanwhile, another strange figure, Blackheart, arrives at a Hell's Angels club out in the desert. He proceeds to kill nearly all of the members with a single touch. Mac and Johnny arrive at Johnny's apartment, where Mac tries to talk him out of doing this new stunt because it seems too risky. Mac is worried because Johnny is becoming increasingly reckless. Johnny responds that he is merely looking for a sign and a second chance. Back at the Hell's Angels bar, Blackheart is approached by three elemental spirits, Gressel, Wallow, and Abigor, and recruits their help in finding the Contract of San Venganza. The spirits agree even though they are afraid of Mephistopheles, a name that angers Blackheart. Johnny is getting ready for his new stunt when he is approached by a reporter for an interview. To his shock, it is his old girlfriend, Roxanne. Johnny is so stunned by her arrival that he cannot answer any of her interview questions. Roxanne breaks off the interview and leaves before Johnny begins his jump. Mac joins Johnny on the ramp, feeling relieved now that Johnny has agreed to take the cars out of the jump. Johnny then reveals something else he plans to put in, and the stadium roof opens to allow 6 Blackhawk helicopters to descend in. Mac is angry about this change and demands to know what prompted such an idea. Johnny explains that his father Barton thought it would be cool. Johnny sets up his bike, though his mind is obviously still focused on Roxanne. Without warning, he throttles up and heads down the ramp. After a few tense seconds, Johnny makes it across with a perfect landing. Johnny waves to the crowd and then speeds off. Roxanne and her news van are riding down the expressway when they are confronted by Johnny. Johnny pulls a few stunts to get the van to stop so he can talk to Roxanne. She relents, telling Johnny to meet her in the restaurant of her hotel later that evening. A group of motorists, angry at the stop of traffic, storm over to see what is happening, but when they find out that Johnny Blaze is on the freeway, they swarm around asking for autographs. Blackheart and his gang confront Mephistopheles, the man in black who made the contract with Johnny. Mephistopheles warns them about trying to take the Contract of San Venganza and threatens them with the Ghost Rider. Blackheart is unafraid. It is revealed through this conversation that Blackheart is Mephistopheles' son. Johnny is preparing for his date with Roxanne when he notices his hands glow in bright red. He washes them only to observe steam rising off his palms. Johnny goes out into the alley to find a brand new motorcycle revved up and waiting for him. Mephistopheles appears, revealing that he has decided to invoke Johnny's services. He explains that he has been keeping Johnny alive all this time so that this day could come. He then compels Johnny to get on the new bike and sends him off after Blackheart, offering to return Johnny's soul if he is successful. Johnny's new bike sets off at such speed that it burns a trail of fire and destruction through the town. Blackheart and his gang arrive at a train yard where they are confronted by the night watchman. Blackheart is curious, stating that this land was once a cemetery. The watchman explains that the graves were moved by St. Michael's Church, and Blackheart kills him. Johnny arrives and dismounts the bike, thrashing in pain. Fire erupts from his feet and hands as Johnny roars with a mixture of pain and evil desire. Finally, his head bursts into flame, revealing his skull. Johnny Blaze has become the new Ghost Rider. Blackheart confronts the Ghost Rider and sends in his elementals to fight. Ghost Rider grabs some chains off a nearby wall to use as weapons, but is stopped when Gressel drives a truck into the building. Ghost Rider erupts from behind the truck, lighting one of his chains on fire and ensnaring Gressel. He screams in pain as he is turned to stone and dissolves. Ghost Rider whistles and his motorcycle appears. He touches the gas cap and the motorcycle transforms into a fiery skull and chain entity, much like the Ghost Rider himself. He rides through town and spots a young woman being mugged. He grabs the mugger, who attempts to stab him, but the knife melts off in the Ghost Rider's body. Ghost Rider commands the mugger to look into his eyes. The mugger screams in horror as his memories of past crimes come back to haunt him. When this torture is finished, Ghost Rider tosses the mugger aside. He ends his drive through town on the outskirts, obviously growing weaker by the oncoming morning. He arrives in his cemetery and slowly but painfully changes into Johnny Blaze. Johnny collapses at the headstone of his father, Barton. Roxanne, angry at Johnny for standing her up, reports on the chaos in town. The police find a license plate during the investigation that belongs to one of Johnny Blaze's bikes. Johnny is found by the caretaker, who offers help. Johnny is skeptical at first but relents. The caretaker explains that the Ghost Rider is essentially the devil's bounty hunter, who must hunt down anyone escaping from hell. Furthermore, the Ghost Rider only appears at night or in the presence of evil. Johnny remembers what he did to the mugger, and the caretaker explains that that was the Ghost Rider's greatest weapon, the penance stare. It makes anyone who feels it experience the pain of every sin they have caused. The caretaker explains the story of the last Ghost Rider and the town of San Venganza's souls. He also reveals that the spirits following Blackheart are the hidden fallen angels cast out of heaven. Johnny leaves to take care of some business, which the caretaker advises against, as Johnny would be protected on sacred ground such as the cemetery. Johnny looks at the devastation caused by last night's events. He meets Roxanne, who is very mad at him. Johnny goes back to his apartment and does some research about fire elements and is able to display a minor degree of control over his new powers. Roxanne arrives and asks him what's been going on with Johnny. Johnny decides to be honest with her, but Roxanne does not accept his story that he sold a soul to the devil and became a bounty hunter, thinking he is either lying to keep her away or has gone insane. Johnny walks outside and the police arrest him, thinking he is responsible for the previous night's murders. Johnny denies any involvement and the police throw him in a holding cell. The inmates recognize Johnny and decide to attack him out of spite for never seeing him fail in his stunt shows. One young inmate stands up for Johnny, but he is knocked aside. The remaining inmates jump on Johnny, who effortlessly transforms into Ghost Rider and defeats them all. Ghost Rider, with his newfound powers, wasted no time escaping from his prison cell. He stole the lead thug's jacket and gloves and used his abilities to make small spikes emerge from the metal detailing. Then he proceeded to burn through the cell bars and leave. However, before departing, he hesitated for a minute in confronting the young inmate who stood up for him. Eventually, Ghost Rider proclaimed the young man to be innocent and walked off. Meanwhile, Blackheart was seen at St. Michael's Church, asking the minister about the contract of San Venganza. Unfortunately, the minister denied any knowledge of it, so Blackheart killed him. Upon learning that Ghost Rider was active again, Blackheart sent Abigor to deal with him. Ghost Rider was quick to reclaim his motorcycle and escape from police custody. However, the cops were not far behind him and eventually trapped him in a dead-end alley. Despite this, Ghost Rider was not deterred. He merely tilted his motorcycle and proceeded to ride straight up the building. Roxanne was packing to leave when she saw the strange display. On the rooftop, Ghost Rider confronted Abigor, but they were ambushed by a police helicopter. Ghost Rider used his chains to throw the copter away from the roof, so they did not interfere. He then attempted to catch Abigor just like he did with Gressel, but Abigor used his wind powers to escape. This gave Ghost Rider an idea. He ignited a chain and spun it, causing a cyclone that pulled an Abigor. After a few seconds of resistance, the wind spirit was destroyed. As Ghost Rider came down from the roof, the police attempted to apprehend him. He attempted to resist, but then spotted Roxanne in the crowd. The flames on his head grew fainter as he approached Roxanne. The police saw this as an advantage and opened fire with their weapons. However, Ghost Rider conjured a wall of flame and escaped, retreating to the cemetery. The caretaker finished the story of the contract of San Venganza by telling Johnny about the previous Ghost Rider, a former Texas Ranger named Carter Slade. Slade became corrupt and made a deal with Mephistopheles to save his life. When Carter Slade saw what was happening at San Venganza, he took the contract and hid it. The caretaker put forth the theory that Carter was buried with it. Roxanne returned to Johnny's apartment, where she met Mac. Mac talked about how Johnny had had weird interests recently, and Roxanne began to flip through some of Johnny's books. She was now convinced that what Johnny told her was true. Suddenly, Blackheart appeared and killed Mac. Johnny returned to find Mac dead and Blackheart holding Roxanne captive. Without a moment's hesitation, he transformed into Ghost Rider and attempted to use the penance stare on Blackheart. However, to his surprise, Blackheart merely laughed, explaining that the penance stare would not work on him as he had no soul. Still, Blackheart agreed to free Roxanne if Johnny brought him the contract at the ruins of San Venganza by morning. Determined to save Roxanne, Johnny returned to the cemetery, vowing to dig up the entire place if need be. However, his determination was met with an unexpected obstacle when the caretaker shattered his shovel, revealing a rolled-up parchment in the handle. The parchment was the contract that Blackheart was after. Johnny decided to take it and have a final fight with Blackheart. The caretaker relented, thinking that Johnny's unpredictable nature might just give him an advantage. The caretaker then summoned a mysterious horse from the shadows and revealed himself as Carter Slade, the previous Ghost Rider. Together, both riders headed out to San Venganza. Carter escorted Johnny to the town and warned him to stick to the shadows. He revealed that this was the end of the trail for him, as he got nothing left. He rode off into the sunset, ready to face eternity for his actions. As Johnny rode into San Venganza, he was ambushed by Wallow, the last surviving hidden. Wallow pulled Johnny underwater, attempting to drown him. However, Johnny countered by transforming into Ghost Rider and superheating the water, evaporating Wallow. Just when Johnny thought he was safe, Blackheart appeared with Roxanne in custody. He let Roxanne go as Johnny handed over the contract. Before Blackheart could take the contract, Johnny transformed into Ghost Rider and attacked. Despite his best efforts, Blackheart managed to fight off Ghost Rider's attacks and read the contract, commanding the spirits within the town to join him. The spirits emerged and united with Blackheart, who then proclaimed, "My name is Legion, for we are many." In an attempt to stop Legion, Roxanne attacked him with Carter Slade's shotgun. While it wounded him, it did little to slow his advance. Johnny caught the shotgun and infused it with his Ghost Rider powers, turning it into a hellfire weapon. The blast disintegrated Legion, but he effortlessly began to reform. Johnny realizes that Legion now has all 1,000 souls from San Venganza trapped within him, and has made himself vulnerable to Ghost Rider's greatest weapon. He transforms into Ghost Rider one last time and traps Legion long enough to use the penance stare. Legion screams in agony as the sins of 1,000 souls pass through his body. Legion reverts to Blackheart and dies, the penance stare having succeeded once again. Mephistopheles arrives and congratulates Johnny on his success. He offers to take back the Ghost Rider powers, but Johnny refuses. He decides to keep the powers and use them against Mephistopheles' evil. He is angry, but he cannot take back the power by force and vows to make Johnny pay. Johnny and Roxanne share an emotional farewell as Johnny vows to head out and go wherever the road takes him. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Ghost Rider. We hope you enjoyed reliving this piece of art. If you want to keep up with our latest movie recaps and reviews, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Don't forget to leave a comment below to let us know which movies you want us to recap next, and feel free to share this video with your friends and family who love movies as much as we do. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.